This is the story of Eddie Gallo, a guy I bump into on the Jersey comedy scene. Eddie isn't a good-looking guy. He had a lot of zits as a kid, and it almost looks like he had a fire on his face, and somebody put it out with an ice pick. I always say that he's so revolting, if I was on a lake and his head pop up, I'd grab an oar and start beating it. Eddie had a manager, Dante Nunzio. Dante liked two things, cigars and nachos. Some people call him the Blob. He's always telling stories. He'd tell me that he could get me in Hollywood. And if that director gives you a part, I'll send him a basket of fruit. Dante had this old limousine that he'd drive Eddie around in. It was all banged up on one side, so they'd pull up to the gigs with the good side facing the gig. Eddie would never enter a room until he was ready to go on stage. He's the consummate professional, and when he did, it was like a red carpet. Unfortunately, the only attention it attracted was the homeless guy who was sleeping in the backyard. Eddie, Dante said, was the complete entertainer. He could sing as well as tell jokes. He'd sing these Sinatra-type numbers that would go, "You and me are like a cup of tea." He didn't know the joke was on him. So that was a little bit about Eddie and his buddy Dante. But I love that. You know, Eddie writes all his own music. It sounds pretty good, right? He writes a lot of love songs, sentimental stuff. And Dante, he's a pisser, you know. Yeah, I get you a role out in Hollywood. That director, he gets a basket of fruit. That's very good there, Dante, in that very competitive market. All those agents out there golfing with those directors and going to parties, and you sitting over here in Jersey and you just send them a basket of fruit, and I beat out Brad Pitt for the next movie, right? By the way, I love that strategy. The fruit comes from California in the first place, so by the time it gets back out to California 3 weeks later, it should be nice and dried out. That should really seal the deal. Dried out fruit. Dried out bruised rotten fruit. Oh, who could have thought of that one? Anyway, here's a little thing I picked up in my reading, and it says, bonds giving Obama support. Where is it? Bonds giving Obama support. That the bond market is reacting to Obama positively. Well, I hope those bonds can vote, because those are the only votes he's going to get at this point. Hillary's going to be your next nominee. And to be frank with you, I'd love to see it. I'd love to, you know, because I've referred to her as Genghis Hunt before. And she's a tough broad. I'd like to see her negotiate with the Iranians, instead of that Mr. Rogers approach that Obama, that worked really well. Now Iran's got the bomb. That's great, you know. And guess where they're going to be using it. But I can't blame people for voting for Obama. You know, I think back on the choice, and it was between Obama or reanimating a corpse. It's like, you know, hey, yeah, the guy looked good, he sounded good, just like a used car salesman. But now it's all over. Here's Rihanna. I love this. She's just got another tattoo. She's got a tattoo of a pistol on her leg. And I don't know why people do it. It's depressing. She's a very beautiful girl. She's got all those tattoos. She's going to look like one of these ratty white broads from a biker magazine. I don't know why a woman would do that. But I tell you what, though, that punch in the face, that was great publicity, man, because she's been page 6, she's been in the news, and hey, I want to get punched in the face by Chris Brown. This is the New York Times, and they have an article on this social networking thing. What's the name of it? Foursquare, and how these guys vie on this site to be mayors of the bars they hang out in or an alleyway near it. Sounds kind of like the dumb shit people who read the New York Times would do. Waste their time on something stupid like that. Anyway, I'm still dealing with this. I just got this Apple. I put Windows 7 via boot camp. Every time I boot into Windows, I lose my disk drive and I lose my external hard drive. It's like I'm playing a shell game with the computer. I'm playing 3-card Monte with Bill Gates. And I call support. Their solution is you hold F8 while the thing is booting up. F8. It sounds like F-it is more like it. Why don't you just put a crank on the side of the computer? $200 for Windows 7. Nice job there, Gates. Nice, Windows is crap. Anyway, this is for you, Bill. This is something I did this winter, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Everybody else, sayonara.